Hey everyone. Ready for a deep dive into something kind of unexpected?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We're tackling this idea of joy,
Okay.
not just as like a fleeting good feeling,
Right.
but as like a duty,
Oh, wow.
a discipline.
That's something we work towards.
Exactly. A discipline we cultivate.
That's interesting.
Like almost counterintuitive, right?
It really is. We usually think of joy as like a response to good stuff happening, like a natural outcome of things going our way.
Yeah.
But this sermon we're looking at,
Okay.
it's by Stephen Johnson,
Right.
called The Duty and Discipline of Joy.
Yes.
Really flips that whole idea around.
Totally. And Johnson starts by highlighting something that just like jumped out at me.
Okay, what's that?
The fact that Scripture often frames joy as a command, not a suggestion.
Not just a, hey, it'd be nice if you felt joyful.
Oh, no, like, you got to do this.
A must do.
Right. And he uses this powerful example from Nehemiah.
Oh, yeah, Nehemiah rebuilding the walls.
Oh, exactly. The Israelites are rebuilding Jerusalem's walls.
Huge task.
I mean, can you imagine? Huge and exhausting. And they're facing all this opposition.
He's trying to stop them?
Yeah, all this pushback. But Nehemiah's like, all right, everybody, we're going to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles.
In the middle of all this.
Right in the middle of it all.
Wow.
And he reminds them that the joy of the Lord is your strength.
That's powerful.
Doesn't it? It really makes you wonder, like, how often do we let circumstances dictate our joy?
All the time, probably.
Right. Think about it. We get swamped with deadlines, stress, the news cycle.
All the craziness.
It's like a joy crusher. And our joy just gets like squeezed out.
It just disappears.
Yeah. And could that be weakening us?
In ways we haven't even realized.
In ways we haven't thought about.
Yeah, like what if joy is actually giving us that strength to deal with all that stuff?
It's such a thought-provoking question. And Johnson takes it even further.
Okay, how so?
He uses this Feast of Tabernacles as a model.
Oh, interesting.
For how we can actually like cultivate joy.
So not just like wait for it to happen.
Like proactively build it.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Now, for those who might not be familiar, Tabernacles or Sukkot.
Right.
It's a Jewish festival. It's a time to remember God's faithfulness.
Okay.
Celebrate the harvest and live in these temporary dwellings.
You mean like those little huts?
Yeah, exactly. They're called Sukkot.
Sukkot. I've seen pictures of those.
And they symbolize God's presence during the Israelites' journey through the wilderness.
Oh, that's right. It's like a reminder of how God provided for them.
Exactly. And Johnson, he brings this ancient tradition to life.
Okay.
But with a touch of humor, too.
I like that.
He describes modern-day Sukkot.
Oh, like how people do it today?
Yeah. Anything from elaborate structures to a simple one-person tent.
Keeping it simple.
He even mentions a Lego creation.
Oh, that's awesome.
He emphasizes that it's about the intention, the act of creating a space for gratitude and remembrance.
Not just the structure itself.
Exactly. So taking that idea and applying it to our own lives,
Right.
Maybe it's not about building an actual sukkot.
Okay.
But about carving out those intentional moments, even small ones.
Yeah, like what kind of moments are you thinking?
Like a gratitude list you share with your family.
That's nice.
Or a quiet corner where you can just disconnect and reconnect with yourself.
Yeah, like a little retreat.
Exactly. It's about creating those spaces for joy.
Intentionally.
Yes. And Johnson, he's guiding us toward a perspective shift.
Oh, yeah. What kind of shift?
It's about appreciating what we have rather than focusing on what we lack.
Oh, that's so important.
Isn't it? And Tabernacles.
Yes.
It's not just about looking back. It's also about celebrating the present and anticipating the future.
Oh, that's interesting.
He calls it a dress rehearsal.
A dress rehearsal.
Yeah, for the ultimate celebration to come. Like we're practicing joy and anticipation.
Or what's ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
And that future-oriented perspective.
Yeah.
It feels so helpful when we're going through tough times.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a reminder that things are temporary and something much greater awaits.
Something bigger is coming.
Exactly.
I love how he brings in that quote from C.S. Lewis, too.
Oh, yeah, which one?
The present moment is when time and eternity intersect.
Wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
It's so profound.
It encourages this mindful presence, recognizing that each moment holds the weight of our past and the promise of our future.
Like everything's converging in this moment.
Right here, right now.
I find that so grounding.
You too. It's like a touchstone.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Choosing joy in the present.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not just about feeling good, but connecting with something so much deeper.
Something more lasting.
More enduring, yeah. And that leads us to this, like, truly radical concept Johnson introduces.
Oh, okay. I'm ready for this.
Joy as a weapon.
A weapon.
Now, hold on. Before you picture, like, joyful warriors with smiles as swords.
I mean, I was kind of picturing that, but all right.
Let me explain.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's a powerful metaphor, and Johnson isn't suggesting we use joy aggressively.
Okay.
Instead, he's presenting joy as an active force.
Okay.
Something that equips us to face challenges with resilience, even defiance.
So like a shield almost.
Yeah, like an inner strength.
That helps us push through.
Exactly.
Oh, I like that.
And he uses the example of Paul and Silas.
Oh, yeah, in prison.
Yes. Singing hymns in prison after being flogged.
Wow, talk about a tough situation.
I mean, can you imagine? Imprisoned, beaten, and choosing to sing praises.
It's incredible.
It challenges me to think, how can we cultivate that kind of joy? The kind that fuels our strength and lets us rise above those difficult circumstances.
That's the question, isn't it?
It is.
Because it's not easy.
No, it's not.
And Johnson acknowledges that. He emphasizes that cultivating joy is a discipline.
It takes work.
It does. Just like anything worthwhile we pursue.
Like building a muscle.
Exactly. And he even points out that bad habits,
Oh, yeah.
like negativity or dwelling on what's wrong.
It's so easy to get stuck there.
It is. They can easily overshadow those good intentions.
Like they just take over.
Yeah, it takes consistent effort to build new habits.
Especially the habit of joy.
Right, because we're so used to focusing on the negative.
It's like our default mode sometimes.
It really is. So we got to retrain our brains.
And our hearts.
Yeah. So it's not about pretending struggles don't exist.
Right.
It's about choosing where our focus lies.
That's a good distinction.
Choosing to remind ourselves of God's goodness, strength of the human spirit,
Yes.
and the potential for growth even in the midst of pain.
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
It really is. It changes everything.
And Johnson doesn't leave us hanging.
Oh, good.
He offers practical advice for actually putting this into practice.
Like what kind of advice?
Gratitude, being present, nature, connecting with loved ones.
All of those good things.
They all help us shift away from what drains us and move towards what truly nourishes us.
It's like choosing life.
It is. It's choosing to nourish our souls.
And those are such important reminders.
They are, because it's so easy to forget.
In the rush of everyday life.
It really is. We get caught up.
And we forget to nurture our own joy.
Exactly. But as Johnson says, joy isn't a luxury.
It's a necessity.
It's essential.
It's the fuel that keeps us going, keeps us loving.
It's making a difference.
And that brings us to something really relevant today.
Okay, what's that?
Johnson's observation about our culture.
Oh, yeah. What does he say?
He talks about how it's all about fleeting emotions and self-focus.
Right. Instant gratification, constant stimulation.
Always chasing happiness.
At any cost.
And it's exhausting.
It really is.
We're always on the hunt for the next dopamine hit.
But never truly satisfied.
It's like a bottomless pit.
It is, and Johnson reminds us that there's a different way.
Okay.
A countercultural path.
A different approach.
That leads to a deeper, more lasting joy.
Tell me more about this path.
It's the path of choosing joy.
Even when it feels counterintuitive.
Yes. Even when the world around us feels chaotic.
It's a challenge.
It is.
Yeah.
So that raises the question, how do we stand firm in our joy when everything feels so uncertain? We were talking about that challenge,
Yeah.
Choosing joy in a culture that's like constantly bombarding us with reasons to be anything but.
Right. It's tough.
So how do we navigate that?
Well, Johnson highlights this contrast between the world idea of happiness, which is often fleeting and dependent on outside things.
Right, like stuff we buy or achievement.
Exactly. And then he contrasts that with what the Bible describes as joy.
Okay.
This deeper thing.
Yeah.
This deep-rooted sense of peace and contentment.
That comes from something bigger than ourselves.
Yes. It's not about what we have or what we've done.
It's about who we are.
And whose we are.
Exactly. It's like we're being offered this counterfeit version of joy.
A knockoff.
Yeah, one that ultimately leaves us empty.
Wanting more.
Always chasing the next thing.
He compares it to a sugar rush.
Oh, I get that.
Quick burst of energy, followed by an inevitable crash.
Yeah, I've been there.
He contrasts that with joy as a slow-burning fire.
Oh, I like that image.
Fueled by our connection to God, our purpose,
yes,
and living in line with our values.
So it's sustainable.
It is. It's a steady source of strength.
That makes sense. But how do we cultivate that?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Because just saying I choose joy
doesn't make our problems disappear.
No, our struggles are still there.
Right. But it's about choosing where we focus our attention.
Yeah.
Johnson reminds us that joy is a discipline.
Something we actively cultivate.
We have to work at it.
Like a garden.
Exactly. We got to tend to it.
And Johnson suggests that experiencing joy and delight is a form of worship.
Oh, wow.
And by giving generously, even in unexpected ways, we reflect God's generosity and abundance.
It's like we're partnering with God in spreading joy.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
It really flips the script on how we think about giving.
It does.
It becomes less about obligation and more about celebration.
Johnson reminds us that true joy isn't superficial. It's rooted in profound connection.
Connection to God.
Ourselves.
Others.
And the world around us.
It's holistic.
It is. So it's not just about feeling good.
It's about cultivating a way of being.
That's grounded in something larger, more enduring.
That's the key.
And this leads to a crucial point.
Okay.
Joy is a fruit of the Spirit.
It's not something we manufacture.
Right. It's a gift.
That flows from our relationship with God.
So it's not about striving for joy.
But about abiding in the vine.
As Jesus puts it.
Yes. Cultivating that deep connection with the source of all joy.
And as we do that, the fruit of joy naturally begins to blossom in our lives.
It's an organic process.
It is. It's not forced.
Johnson emphasizes that cultivating joy is a daily discipline.
It takes effort.
It does. It requires intentionality.
Awareness.
And a willingness to shift our perspective.
When we find ourselves drifting toward negativity or despair.
Catching ourselves before we fall into that trap.
So it's about those small daily choices.
Yeah.
Choosing gratitude over grumbling.
Hope over despair.
Choosing to focus on the good, even when surrounded by darkness. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.
May you find joy in your journey.